Welcome back to the Alcohol Free Revolution podcast. So, special episode today. We are joined by Lisa, who is one of our founding members of the Alcohol Free Revolution community. So, if you've not heard of our community before, we probably don't speak about it as much as we should, but we have a weekly Zoom call. It's at 12 o'clock every Monday, and we get listeners onto the community, and we just celebrate the joys of an alcohol free lifestyle. So, Lisa, welcome to the podcast. It is fantastic to have you on.
Thank
How
you.
are you?
Good to
Woo!
be here. I'm great, thank you.
Good to have you. Good to have you.
Thanks.
Lisa, before we kind of elaborate a little bit more on why this is such a special week for you to be joining the Alcohol Free Revolution podcast, would you mind just kind of sharing a little bit about yourself and what's brought you to where you are now and what urged you to join our community?
Yes, no problem. So I am 51. I started my drinking career probably like most people as a teenager. I'm from Doncaster, so it's a bit of a party town.
Donny.
It's a bit like Magaluf, but without the weather.
I've been there.
Literally one big
What,
bar.
Doncaster or Megalith? Or both?
Doncaster. I've not been to
No, yeah,
Magaluf.
Doncaster. Yeah. So, good fun on a night out. And yeah, so always kind of used alcohol for fun really and socializing. So that's been a big part of my life from an early age. And then obviously throughout life, you go through different phases, don't you, where you're drinking more than other times in your life. So
Mhm.
one that springs to mind is university. That
Oh
was
yeah.
very boozy. I can remember kidney ache and vital organ ache, we used to call it. And then powered on through that, started my first job, again, very boozy culture, out after work, drinks on a Thursday, running into the weekends. And when you're young, you've got a decent bounce back rate. It's
Mm.
not to say you wouldn't be caught out by a hangover, but you were pretty resilient.
Mm.
And I'd say that that was one of my bragging rights, really. I was always pretty good with hangovers, but I think the older I was getting, the more it was starting to take its toll.
Mm.
So in my 30s, obviously I had my children, so that kind of calmed me down a bit. I wasn't really into the mummy wine culture that much, but I would say once the children got old enough where I didn't need babysitters anymore, in my 40s, I probably went the most crackers in terms of socializing, going out, feeling like I've got my freedom back. And yeah, so it was kind of, I was what you would call a grey area drinker, really.
Mm.
Binge drinking at the weekends because that's just what we did and that's what all my friends did. And kind of that's how it was evolved. And then a couple of years before my 50th birthday, I did a medical in London. And I can remember having a really good results. I was really shocked at my liver. I was like, oh wow, this is amazing. My liver's clean. And but the doctor was saying to me, yeah, you've had really good results. But let's talk about drinking. And I was semi-honest about how much I drank. I said probably 30 units a week on average. And the doctor raised an eyebrow and looked a bit disapprovingly at that. And so we started talking about drink, and I was like, well, it's just what we do. And she was like, well, I don't drink. And I was a bit, oh, you don't drink. And she said that's a way you can improve your life. And it kind of planted a seed, really, because I've always been into fitness and health and well-being, go to the gym. And I suppose my drinking didn't really align with that. And
Mm.
even though hangover wise, I could still generally drag myself to the gym. I probably wasn't going to do a hit class or a run or anything like that. I'd just do something a bit easier. Um, but yeah, it was starting to have an effect. So that was probably beginning of 2023 when I had that medical. So, but it did plant a seed. It made me start to think differently about my drinking. It made me really kind of focused on that 14 units a week as a, oh my word, I'm over that every single week, sometimes by quite a lot. And
Mm.
and really that whole unit thing is ridiculous because alcohol is a toxin and saying 14 units, it's equivalent to saying you're allowed 14 fags a week, 14 cigarettes a week.
It's so
It's
confusing
kind
as
of,
well.
yeah. So it's, but anyway, I was kind of got a bit fixated with that. And I was like, right, well, I must moderate. So I actually read Adrian Child's book first. Can't remember the name of that now.
The Good
Uh,
Drinker.
It's something like the
Something
good
like that.
drinker.
Yeah.
Good
Yeah.
Drinker, yeah.
Yeah. And I thought, right, he started moderating. Well, I'll give it a go. So I did that for a bit, tried it, didn't really work for me. My style of drinking is kind of, if I'm out, I'm not having one or two drinks, I'm in the pub and I'm having a drink
Mm.
after drink until last orders. And
No off switch.
no off switch, probably taking half the pub home with me for a dance around the kitchen.
Very familiar.
Or off with a load of random strangers. That was my other party trick. So
Yeah, let's keep it clean,
yeah,
Alice.
yeah, yeah,
We've got a family audience.
yeah. So I had no off switch really, but also I felt that was kind of normal. I thought everybody did that, and actually you kind of associate with your friends that are all of the same, kind of like-minded. We all drank the same, so it was completely normal to
Mm.
me to go out and just smash through 14 units, the weekly allowance in one night, easily.
Mm, mm.
Easy.
Because you'd maybe have a pre-drink while you were getting ready. If you're going into the city, like on the train, then you probably have a drink on the train, take some journey juice, that kind of thing.
Journey juice, yeah.
Train buddies.
Yeah, bit of a traveller. So,
Oh yeah.
I was in that kind of thought process, really, drinking mindset. Um, but yeah, so the older I was getting, obviously coming up to 50, it was starting to, well, I say I didn't have horrendous hangovers. Sometimes I did, debilitating, but not that often. I could still function. But what I was noticing was that the hangover was kind of lasting further into the week. So say if I went out, started drinking on Thursday, so it'd be Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And I'm not saying I was smashed out of my mind every one of those nights, but the cumulative effect of that was knocking out my sleep. It was then going into Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I mean, I used to joke with my friends, well, don't bother contacting me on a Monday because I just will not be functioning. Even though I was, if I had to be.
Yeah.
And I was starting to feel human again by Wednesday, Thursday, and then start it again. And I was just like, this is kind of, I'm stuck on a bit of a hamster wheel of
Mm.
partying at the weekends and then recovering and then it just started to get a bit boring, to be honest.
I
I
think so
just,
many people will relate to what you've said. It's
yeah,
that kind of hamster wheel that you've described that people hit in their 40s
yeah,
and 50s, where all of a sudden it just becomes like, ugh, just
yeah,
feeling shit and everything. It's just
that's
so
it.
common in midlife, I think. But sorry, I interrupted
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, no, absolutely right. And I think as well, obviously, I'm menopausal and we're all probably sick of hearing people talk about that. But, it does have an impact. You're changing hormones levels means that you're not processing alcohol in the same way. So I was finding that I was more of a lightweight. Some nights I could drink the same amount, and another night I'd drink the same amount and I'd be absolutely smashed and have complete blackout, where I wasn't remembering large parts of the night. Another night I could go out and drink the same amount and I'd be okay. So that was a bit weird, but maybe in tune with my hormones. I don't know. Um, and then, hangovers, like I say, were starting to extend. But the memory loss was actually becoming a bit of a problem. And I found that quite scary. I just didn't like the idea that I'd been out and nothing had happened, by the way, but I just couldn't piece together bits of the night.
Mm.
So anyway, in the run up to my 50th birthday, I had done lots of celebrations, obviously milking it for all it's worth. Done a few girls' trips away. So my birthday's in the summer, so it had been a full-on kind of summer of parties and trips away. And at the end of September, I decided I'd been on a trip with the girls to Marbella, and we were in the airport, and I just felt horrendous. And I thought, oh my word, what date is it? It's the 30th of September. I was like, oh, it's October. I could do Stoptober. And this, in my life, I'd never stopped drinking. I'd never achieved a dry January. I've probably done like 7 or 8 days.
Mhm.
I'd done one weekend and was really proud of myself. And I thought, I just felt so awful. I thought, right, come on, you can do October. Just have 30 days off. Just give your body a break. I just really felt that I'd hit a wall and I just needed to do something. And so I decided I was going to do it. And the first thing I did was actually, I don't know if you've heard of Jason Currell's Shrink the Drink.
Mhm.
You heard of that? I did the
Mhm.
30-day challenge. I think it was 20 quid. Best 20 quid I've ever spent because it just really made me stay focused. But also, I think that month, I saw it as a real challenge to myself, you know, to try to get some control back because I felt like I was out of control a little bit with it. Because actually, if you ask most people, can you stop drinking for 30 days? I think their first instinct would be to look in the diary and go, well, actually, no, I can't because next week I've got Steve's birthday and the week after that I've got a wedding. So everyone's always got an excuse.
Something. Always
Yeah,
something.
there's
You are
always
spot on with that.
something. There's
Yeah.
always something. And I can remember in this October, we were going to Brighton with some friends for a boozy weekend. And I just thought, do you know what? There is never going to be a good time for me to have a break. So I'm just going to do it. Um, but yeah, that shrink the drink thing that I did was really, really helpful because it just made me stay on track with it. So every day I watched a little video. It's only 5 minutes, but it just really helped. But like I say, I enjoyed the challenge of it in that month. And I also knew in my mind that it was just for the month. But what really, really, really shocked me was how amazing I felt. I couldn't believe the difference. It was like a fog had been lifted. I felt energized. My sleep was amazing. I mean, not initially. It was probably, I don't know, 2 weeks into it. And
Mm.
I just felt so good. Um, Brain fog gone. I just felt much mentally sharper. And I actually was kind of loving having more time as well because I wasn't hungover. And even though I'm saying, oh, yeah, I was pretty resilient with hangovers, it still affects you. You're operating at 60%, 70%. So you feel less inclined to do things on a Sunday. You'd be just lazy and eat the wrong food and, just generally mong about a bit. So, you know, from that point of view, it definitely, I definitely noticed the difference. So the end of October, obviously I'd only given myself a month challenge, but it was actually my husband's birthday on the 30th of October, and we had a meal booked, and there was champagne in the meal. But part of me actually didn't want to drink it. I
Mm.
kind of wanted to carry on with it, but I thought, oh, this is all paid for, and it's his birthday.
It's
So
such a false economy, isn't
yeah, so I better drink it. And I also said to myself, well, you're only doing 30 days anyway, and you've done it. Well done, you. Let's crack on now. And I can remember drinking this champagne and thinking, I really don't want this. I actually really don't want this. And there was some kind of like, there's a real shift in me in how I change things. I just couldn't believe, I think, how well I felt. That was it. It was how well I felt in that 30 days. Because I've had 3 pregnancies, but when you're pregnant, you're not feeling the benefits as much because there's massive change going on in your body. So you don't really notice it. You're knackered
Mm.
anyway.
it?
So
I think it's the motivation as well, isn't it? When you get pregnant,
yeah,
it's like it's non-negotiable, so there's no arguing
yeah,
with it. Whereas when you're trying to take a break and you haven't got that, you can always question it and be like, well, and that's where you have to kind of focus on the beliefs piece, isn't it? Whereas
yeah,
when you're pregnant, it's just I'm doing it. It's
yeah,
non-negotiable.
Mm.
yeah. That's
Mm.
it. So anyway, so that was October. So this is 18 months ago now. And so I had that month off, felt great. But I thought, right, okay, just go back to drinking, but just moderate. I thought you've got this under control now. You've had a month off. This is going to be a breeze. And actually, for a while, I did achieve that. And I got quite good at being able to pick and choose when I wanted to drink a bit more. I did feel like I got some control back. But then, as time passes, it's mission creep with alcohol. Let's not forget it is a highly addictive substance, and it's readily available. You can get it everywhere, and all your friends are doing it. So it's very easy to slip back into old habits. And I think by April, so 6 months in to going back to drinking, I was back to drinking a lot. I was away again on another girls' trip, a ski trip, which is always boozy. Well, it was historically for me.
Mm.
And then parties, and I just got to the end of April. It was actually my friend from uni's 50th birthday, and I just thought, do you know what? I'm going to have another break. I decided that day at this party. So I thought, right, enjoy tonight because you're having a break again. And so it was the 26th of April, 25th of April last year was my last drink. And I just said to myself, just do another 30 days and see how you feel. But deep down, I knew I wanted to make a change. I just knew I wanted
And
better for myself.
we were going to elaborate on that date, but I've just looked at my watch and you said the
Yeah,
25th of April last
yeah,
year. So
yeah,
that is 1 year.
yeah, yeah.
Fantastic. Happy
Thank
Time
you.
stamp.
Soberversary, as they say, which is awesome.
Yeah,
It's
So
wonderful.
thank you. I know it's amazing.
One year,
I,
4 days.
I can't quite believe it, but I can believe it. It's one of those it's a strange feeling because at the start, if you'd said to me, you're going to have a year off, I'd have said, absolutely no way. Even though deep down, I really, really, in my subconscious mind, I really wanted it.
mm.
The idea just seemed just too monumental, just too big a hill to climb. Um,
Do you
but I
really
think
thought
because
just on that?
mm,
I was just going to ask. That's a really interesting point that you mentioned there, Lisa. Is that you've now done just over 1 year, which is absolutely amazing, and we've known you for about sort of six months of that time.
yeah,
But what you
yeah,
just mentioned there about it can be quite overwhelming to be sort of thinking about this huge future kind of
mm,
alcohol free. And I know from the time all the conversations that we've had that the journey that you've been on with that, but what advice would you give to people who are sort of thinking about taking a break from alcohol, but they're just kind of a bit daunted by this idea of I'm never
mm.
drinking again, or the
I mean,
scale of
yeah,
it? How's that been for you?
yeah, it's a terrifying idea, isn't it? I'm never drinking again. So I think just kind of try and do it incrementally. Don't set yourself up on a ridiculous challenge like never drinking again because that's
It's
quite
overwhelming.
hard.
Mm.
Yeah. So I think do 30 days and see how you feel at that point. And also I think write a why list. I
Yeah,
wrote on my phone
yeah,
in the
that's
notes
big.
section why I wanted to do it. And oh my God, it was such a long list. It was so long, and all, I haven't actually journaled because some people say journal, and I
It
think
does
actually
help.
I do regret. Yeah, I do regret not doing that now because it'd be really interesting to see, you know, how I was feeling then to how I feel now, just to remind
Mm.
myself of the journey in speech marks,
Mm.
which I
Like,
roll. Yeah, like all the sound bites that you hear about sobriety, keep trust the process. Just don't
yeah,
drink today. It's a journey, all of these things, but they are so true.
we hear it. We hear it so
Yeah,
often. I mean, and a why list, I guess, is your form of journaling, right?
yeah,
It was keeping you, it was getting down on paper your reasons as to why. And we hear this so often, and we almost want to just bang the drum on it because
yeah,
hearing you talk about your story there, hearing you talk about how you felt all the way through that, you say, I couldn't believe how good I felt. I couldn't believe how good I
mm,
felt. And you kept coming back to that.
mm,
And then on the flip side, when you're saying the thought of a year would have,
mm,
I'd have laughed at you. So
mm,
we hear this in everybody we speak to. And it's that not focusing and not saying, you know what, I'm going to do a year, I'm going to do that. It's just
mm.
that it's those little gains, those little
Yeah,
steps that you keep coming back to every single time that kind of power you through.
that's it.
We know that in the community, there's been weeks where you've bound on full of energy and been, this is, yeah, this is great, this is fantastic. But ultimately, there's other times where it's, it's been felt trickier, right?
Yeah, absolutely right. Yeah, it's ups and downs for sure. I mean, at the end of the day, I've had a 35-year drinking career that I've got to unravel.
Mhm.
Rome wasn't built in a day. There are no shortcuts to this. You just have to kind of ride it, and there are going to be hard times. And particularly as your friendship group is the same, so everyone is still doing the same things, but you're not. So I think the hardest part to deal with is that point. For me now, it's not about wanting to drink. The desire for me to drink is gone, but it's that kind of wanting to fit in, wanting to join in, that sense of belonging that
Yeah.
is the hard part to navigate. But yeah, I think at the beginning, um, you've got to help yourself really. So I think the people pleasing side of it's quite tough at the start because you don't want to feel like you're letting people down, which is the mad thing, Oh, guys, I'm not drinking tonight, and the look of disappointment in everyone's face. It's like, but it's still me, You can drink, do what you want, type thing, But that's quite a hard thing to deal with at the start. And
Do you find any of your
I
any of your friends in your social group have kind of looked at what you're doing and kind of been a bit sober curious themselves as a result of
Oh yeah,
what you're doing?
they really have. I mean, my friends have been amazing, I've got to say, so supportive, and some of them can't quite believe I've managed it because actually, I think if you lined us all up, I'm probably the ultimate party animal, and you probably wouldn't think it would be me that would choose this.
But that's such
Um,
a great point because a lot of the people who do go
mm,
alcohol free are the people, like all of us on this call, people who are heavier drinkers. And,
mm,
if we can do it, then other people can do it, right? That's the
yeah,
whole point. People have
yeah,
such a block around, oh, I'm not sure I could do that. Well, we've just done it. And, we were probably drinking more than most people were.
yeah. And I kind of feel, and I know people have heard this before, but if I can do it, anyone can do it. Really, it's you really just got to want it, I think. But a good tip for me, well, it's worked for me anyway. I mean, obviously people have different reasons and are triggered by different things. Um, but at the start with the people pleasing thing, I used to pretend I was drinking. Now, I'm not saying that's, I'm not necessarily saying condoning that as a way forward, but it just really helped me, you know. So I
Got to
would,
do you, right? You got to
yeah,
you do
Yeah,
you, and if it
100%.
works, do it.
yeah.
You know.
So
100%.
I would pretend I was drinking, and I would also, once I got over that bit, you know, it's probably a month or so over, I would always take alcohol-free drinks with me in a gift bag or something like that to parties. Um, you know, just so I had something because that,
Yeah.
like I say, that sense of belonging and wanting to fit in. If you've got something in your glass that looks like somebody else's, you don't feel like
It's the
this
ritual.
is obvious. Yeah,
Still got the
yeah,
ritual.
yeah, exactly. Um, and then you make the drink look nice, put it in a prettier glass, that kind of thing. And that really helped me. Uh,
Yeah, definitely. I mean, those are such great tips, I think, for people, still
mm,
feeling part of that group. It's really,
yeah,
really, really important. So
yeah.
obviously
And also,
sorry, Karen, Lise.
I was just going to say as well, I really educated myself. I listened to loads and loads of uh, quit lit books. Alcohol Explained, William Porter is really, really good.
Mhm.
I listened to loads of podcasts. That's how I found you guys.
Uh-huh.
I just love listening to people's stories because, you know, really everyone's so similar,
Yeah,
really. You
definitely.
know,
Definitely.
it's just whether you start to question your own relationship with it, and the cost benefit analysis.
It's a
I think
trade-off.
it is, and I think people just probably just need to start being more honest with themselves.
Hmm.
Is it taking more than it's giving?
Yeah,
Mm,
it's limiting beliefs.
mm.
Yeah. And often people will say, oh, people are quite curious, they want to talk to me about it, because it is quite a you are pushing against the grain, aren't you, doing something like this? Because
100%.
everybody else is drinking. So people are curious,
Yeah.
and they'll just say things like, "Oh, well, I couldn't do that." It's like, well, of course you couldn't do that because you've already said you're not going to be able to do it.
Mm.
It's like reframing what you can do
But
and
it's like you said
reframing.
earlier, you were able to
Yeah.
when you were pregnant, it was a non-negotiable. So
Mm,
anyone can do it. You just have to have the
mm,
right motivation and the right framing.
yeah.
Because obviously that the same. It's not. It's about how you see it in your mind and how you frame the situation. It's just about having the right motivation.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Um, so sorry, I'm just reminding myself about, oh yeah, that was the thing. Yeah. People pleasing is a big thing at the start, but the more that time passes, the more you don't care about that because you become stronger. Your relationship with yourself grows because you're actually doing something. You're staying true to your word. You're saying, I'm not going to drink. And you're actually doing what you say. Whereas before, when I was trying to moderate and trying to cut back, I always had this like, I was always disappointed with myself because I could never quite do it. It was like a, you know, stone in my shoe, like a, you know, monkey on my shoulder patting me, saying, "Oh, you've done it again," you know.
And
And
that's what holds people back so much, isn't it? It's
yes,
that one that you think, oh my gosh, that's it. I've drunk once. That's it. All bets are off, and I'm back to exactly where I
yeah,
was. Where actually, if you stop
yeah,
back and you look at it and you think, you know what, I've done 29 out of the 30 days, and
yeah,
if I just
yeah,
scratch that and
yeah,
carry on, that's where the
yeah,
progress
yeah,
happens.
Mm.
yeah. But where you kind of you start to actually do what you really want to do and you're achieving that goal, your self-confidence and your self-trust grows and your relationship with yourself grows. So
Mm.
my inner critic at the start of this sober journey was actually horrible, you know. Eh, and the more I've gone along and the relationship has improved with myself, that voice has got quieter. And now it's actually quite nice, you know. So I've kind of grown. I can't really
Mm.
explain it in a better way than that, but yeah, it's
Amazing.
I'm much more at peace with everything.
So when we first met, it would have been around about November time, I think. Right, Steve,
Mm.
remind me when we started the alcohol
October,
for
November, I think. Yeah.
October, November, we
No,
started
we
the alcohol
started the
free.
community, yeah, beginning of October.
Yeah. So you were
Yes.
around 6 months at that point.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit. I'd love to, because obviously we want to try and, get some people on
Yes.
board with the alcohol
Yeah.
free community. Talk to us a little about how that's helped, not meeting us
Oh
specifically, but
yeah.
being part of a
Yeah.
community around it. How's that
Yeah.
helped you?
That has helped massively because I think in the first 3 months of stopping drinking, well, this is how I found it. Everyone's experience is going to be different, but it's still a challenge, it's still new. You're finding your way with it. And you have the pink cloud, which is the moment of, oh, I'm doing this. This is amazing. I feel great, but then you get to like 4, 5, 6 months in, and people might think, oh, it should be getting easier then. But actually, in a strange way, it just shifts and you start to feel what, kind of a resentment why you're not able to drink like everybody else. Why can't I drink like
Yeah.
them? They just can have a couple and go
Mm.
home. Why
Mm,
can't I do that? Why can't
mm.
why can't I join in with that? And you get a little bit frustrated, that feeling of it's not fair.
Hmm.
Um,
A bit of FOMO, isn't it?
yes, feel like you're missing out. Also, like future tripping, I used to do a lot. I'd think about an event that was coming up, and I'd be like, "Oh my God, I'm not going to be able to do that. This is going to be awful. How am I going to do that?" And I'd have all these conversations with myself. And so I felt that I was at quite a precarious stage, 6 months in, and so I kind of really looked into community at that point, and I found you guys on a podcast, and I saw that you were looking for a community of, to contact on Zoom. And I thought, well, that would be really good because it would mean that I could speak to like-minded people. It would keep me accountable. It would make me feel less alone because actually that is part of it. You do feel on your own.
Mm.
Um, especially on nights out, you know, it can feel like someone's put a glass screen up and you're behind it, like behind soundproof glass,
Yeah.
trying to get in. You know, I'm here, guys. Meanwhile, everyone smashed, you know, and you look like you just feel like you're missing out, you
Mm,
know. So it was really important to me to kind of reach out and find like-minded people, which is what
Definitely.
your community gave me, and it definitely helped me for sure. Just that call every Monday, I just knew, especially being on a Monday as well, it was good timing for me because obviously it was after a weekend. So I would
yeah.
think to myself, well, I've got the call, you know, with the community on Monday, so I better, obviously, I'm not going to be drinking because that's, you know,
Mhm.
that kind
Well,
of
you mentioned
thing.
earlier about belonging as being quite a, you spoke about your
Mm,
social group and, belonging. And I think that's what we're trying to achieve with the community is get people together because going alcohol free, you're right, it does feel a bit isolating.
Mm,
The
mm,
reality is that millions of people are doing it because 1 in 3 people did dry January. So people are out there, but see
yes.
that the social environment that we live in suggests that everyone's having a lovely old time and you're this kind of odd one out, which isn't
Mm,
true. So trying to pull people together in the same place who are on the same adventure, it's an alcohol-free adventure.
yeah.
Our community is not about. It's not AA. I don't want people to sort of think that you're going to be in a room with a load of people that you don't know, in some cold, wet, dank sports hall in
Mm,
Doncaster.
yeah.
no,
Standing
Doncaster's a party town,
standing
right?
up and
Yeah.
saying, hi, my name's Lisa and I'm an alcoholic. It's
Yeah.
absolutely it could not be
No,
further from the
yeah,
truth
Yeah.
at all.
yeah,
We're all middle lane drinkers. We're all, regular
Yeah.
people. I'm not by any means saying, if you have significant alcohol use disorder, problem, or what would have been referred to as alcoholism before, then absolutely there are services, that you should look to in your local area for support with that. But that's not what we're doing. We're middle lane drinkers, grey area drinkers. People who, we've had people at all different stages. People who are sober curious. Most important,
Mm,
had people come on who are just like looking for a bit of motivation and just want to sort of look behind the curtain and see what maybe it could be like. We have people that are a few months in, a few weeks in, and like yourself, Lisa, now, a year in. And obviously, Steve and I have been going for, for a few years now. And it's such a great opportunity to get together and just chat about an alcohol free lifestyle and get some support, get some motivation. And yeah, it's been brilliant to meet you, and obviously you were one of our founder members, Lisa, and we're going for 6 months. And yeah, it's just great for us to get you on the show. It's one of our listeners, and
yeah.
particularly
Thanks.
on this milestone day of like one
Yeah.
year. And yeah, it's been brilliant to watch you on the journey. And I know, over that time as well, you had, I'd say that you had a couple of bumps in the road where you were kind of
Yeah.
questioning your identity a little bit, and hopefully we kind of helped you along a little bit with that and
Yeah.
those
Oh yeah.
conversations.
Yeah, you guys have been instrumental in my um sobriety journey. Keep saying that word. But it's really, really helped me. And I would encourage anyone who is feeling a little bit alone with it and just needs that extra bit of support to get on board. It's so easy, it's free, it's only an hour, but it just does help massively. But yeah, the identity grief is a real thing. Well, it was for
Big
me,
time.
and I would say that that happened about eight to 9 months. Well, I was getting into the groove of you know being sober, but also struggling with this loss of party animal identity. Um, who am I? Who am I if I'm not drinking?
Mm.
Kind of thing. Um,
It's so common,
it's
isn't it, for our age group? Because we're all in and around 50. I mean, Steve's a little bit older, but
mm,
we're all basically we're all basically
yeah,
50.
God,
You know,
every
yeah,
week, every week.
it's got to be
yeah,
done,
Yeah,
hasn't it?
yeah,
But
this is
we all kind of lived through the 90s, right? Where so that
yeah,
kind of lifestyle, the idea that 40% of people under 25 now don't drink is just like mind blowing to people who
yeah,
are around 50, because
yeah,
binge Britain, ladette culture, all that kind of thing. We
mm,
lived through that, right? And it's
yeah,
just
absolutely.
it's changing so fast now, for the better. But I think our generation, people in their 40s and 50s, just it's a bit of a it's a bit of a head fuck, to be quite honest, to get your
Mm,
head
mm,
around what's
mm.
what's happening and what's changing. But there's so many of us
mm,
out there doing it now. And how many people do you meet who've gone alcohol free who go, yeah, it's all right, it's a bit shit? No one.
yeah,
No,
Everyone's like,
no.
it's bloody amazing. Why aren't you doing it?
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. It's
So
it's 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 definitely a life upgrade. It really is because you just have so much more time as well. And you can look in your diary and go, right, well, I can actually do all of that because I'm going to be fine. Yeah, I
Mm,
might feel a little bit tired, but I'm not going to be hungover,
Mm.
you know. So yeah, it's
It's,
definitely a life upgrade.
how do you, something I want to ask, because you mentioned we just mentioned there a little bit about that questioning around identity
Mm,
around 9 months. And I'm going to be honest, one of the reasons that we started the community was that I was in an alcohol-free community when I was starting out, and I found that it really, really helped, and being able to share that
mm,
with you. And then one of the things that I had similar situations as I was approaching 1 year. It's like, God, you say to yourself, we started earlier on in the podcast by saying it's really important to focus on what's going on now, and a year's too big to think of, and everything else. And then when you start to approach a year, you think, oh, okay, I've been telling myself not to think about that. Now I am thinking about it. What happens when I start thinking
mm.
about 2 years, 3 years? What does that look like? And that those kind of going to out in social situations and not really, not fitting in. Have you found that in the community, through speaking to people in a similar situation to you, has that changed the dynamic now when you go out in terms of how your confidence around talking about being alcohol free?
Yes, definitely. Um, my confidence has grown anyway because, like I said at this, before, you just start to have more self-trust because you're actually doing what you said you're going to do, as in stop drinking. So you do feel more confident. So yeah, people will say, "Oh, I'm too shy. I need alcohol to relax and talk to people." But actually, the ironic thing is, if you remove it and you take away that mask and relying on a substance, your confidence grows over
And
time.
it's fake confidence, isn't it?
Mm.
It's not real
Yeah,
confidence. Real confidence is feeling like you've achieved something that's quite hard to
yeah,
do. That's what gives
yeah,
you
Exactly.
confidence.
yeah,
Gives you the confidence to come on and speak to, 500,000 people on a podcast.
yeah.
That's
Oh
kind of
my
the
word.
listenership we get.
What? Where are the other 500,000 gone? Our
Those-
listenership's like falling through the floor, mate.
Yeah, it's interesting what you said as well about in your 50s. It's like I think I've really noticed among my friends. I mean that they're all kind of approaching drinking differently now as well. I'm not necessarily saying that's because of me, but I think they've all just noticed that they're not enjoying feeling hungover anymore. It's actually having more of an impact on them now than they thought, particularly my female friends. So a lot of them are cutting down or even thinking about stopping as
Mm.
well. So then I feel less alone with that.
Well, I wanted to ask you because you touched on it briefly earlier on. You mentioned, if you don't mind me speaking about this, you mentioned earlier about menopause, actually, which
Mm.
is something that also doesn't get spoken enough about, a bit similar to
Yeah.
drinking, really. And what what kind of what kind of change, what kind of things have you noticed in terms of, you mentioned obviously
Mm.
you're in your early 50s, and
Mm.
when you look back to the previous, the year just gone, what's maybe shifted in that part of your
Okay,
life?
so yeah, so
What
I
changes?
really, really noticed brain fog was bad when I was drinking, but that is also a menopause symptom.
Mm,
Also, poor sleep, lack of energy around in the afternoons, um, could all be menopause linked. But since stopping drink, oh, anxiety,
yeah.
really bad anxiety about silly things, that are completely out of my control things. So irrational anxiety, basically. And these are all classic menopause symptoms. But I think when you throw alcohol into the mix, it's just like throwing fuel on a fire.
Mm,
And I've really noticed since stopping drinking that those symptoms have practically gone.
mm.
So, you know,
Well, the biggest shift is the menopause is hormone change, right, in the brain,
mm,
and alcohol is a massive hormone disruptor. So you've already
yeah,
got a backdrop of hormone disruption, and then you're, like you say,
mm,
you're throwing petrol on the bonfire. Because I think
mm,
a lot of those things that you've described there are quite often they get put in the menopause bucket. But then
yeah,
perhaps they don't necessarily need to be there. Perhaps they actually belong in the alcohol bucket. I'm
yeah,
not saying all those things go away, but based on what you've just said, Lisa, it sounds like a lot of those things are significantly reduced by
mm,
taking alcohol out of the picture.
yeah.
Or when they're
It's,
there. Oh, sorry, go on.
I was just going to say, it's just so nice not to feel in a constant state of anxiety,
God, yeah.
Mm,
which is how I was.
mm. And when those symptoms are there and alcohol's
Mm.
not, then you can attribute it to exactly what it is, rather
Yeah.
than it being masked and putting it down necessarily to a hangover or putting it down to a heavy weekend. But actually,
Mm.
it's not masking them, and they're much more easy to identify, right?
Yeah,
I think
absolutely.
the thing with anxiety as well is it almost if if you're in a position where you're in your 40s and you're stressing day after day, night after night, waking up in the middle of the night. Oh, how am I gonna break out of this cycle? I've been telling myself I wasn't going to drink, and I've gone and done it again, and that anxiety can be absolutely crippling. But when you commit to, right, I'm doing this, I'm taking however long it's off, whether it's a month or 100 days or however long you decide, that almost instantaneously goes away because you've taken
Mm,
action.
mm,
And that is one of the, then obviously you've got to keep it going, which, requires a little bit more thought and strategy. But just making that decision that you're going to do that alleviates all of that sort of downward pressure that's on your shoulders, and that's makes you feel so much better about yourself just making
mm.
that decision.
Yeah, your relationship with yourself just improves massively. It's actually probably the biggest act of self-love, isn't it? Doing
Yeah,
something
so
like that.
stop poisoning yourself.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, that is, and that's it. So, and another thing I've noticed actually as well, like not just on the menopause symptoms, but I used to suffer terribly with hay fever. And obviously last year I stopped drinking, didn't I? Kind of so really May. So, and that's like the start of hay fever season. So I did have it mildly, but it was definitely reduced. So it'd be interesting to see if that completely goes this year, because obviously alcohol's an inflammatory, isn't
Mm.
it? It just inflames every cell in your body. So if you've got an allergy like hay fever, it's just going to make it worse. So it'll be good to see if I'm actually over that this year
Yeah,
as another incentive.
it's pretty crazy the amount of things that disappear when you remove alcohol. Not because necessarily that alcohol is the main problem, but you know, alcohol's kind of damaging your gut microbiome, which is where your 70% of your immune system is. So if your gut
Yeah.
microbiome is compromised, then you're just more susceptible to any kind of illness because you're pouring hand sanitizer down your throat basically, which is
Yeah, yeah,
antibacterial, which is killing your gut microbiota, which is
yeah.
your immune system. And
It's
don't even mean being be dramatic, but that's the reality of it.
yeah, this is absolutely true. So I actually at the weekend I was out with some friends and just changing the subject, we were drinking well, I was drinking alcohol-free fizz and they had
Thought you were going to say you
champagne.
were drinking hand sanitizer for a minute.
Yeah. No,
Did
but
that
it's
for long
like,
enough.
like when you'd be, not drinking for a long period of time, it's very easy to kind of romanticize alcohol and to go,
Mm.
oh, that looks so nice. I'd love a glass of that or whatever. But and that's kind of stopped. But champagne is all I've always thought, oh, that's a nice drink, It's a celebratory drink, isn't it? We just strongly associate it with a treat. And so I accidentally had a gulp of my friend's champagne. I thought it was my alcohol free. And I could just all I could taste was the ethanol. And I know it's been a period of time now, quite a lot. Oh, it's been a year, hasn't it, since I've had a drink? But it kind of helped me in a way because I thought, oh my God, that tastes horrible.
Yeah.
What have
Mm.
I been, what have I been
Mm.
holding on to all this time? I don't actually want that.
Oh, this is such a good insight as well because it's like when people obsess over, the taste of wine, particularly red wine. You
Yes.
get that all
Yeah.
of that bullshit around wine, around it's got a nice smoky taste and an oak. It's been done in an oak casket. All the thing people talk about whiskey and stuff, and it's all complete nonsense because
Yeah.
you with all that acquiring a taste, you're just basically, you know, how you've just what you've just described, Lisa, is what it really tastes like. It's the
Mm.
same taste that you get when you drink it when you were a kid. That's what it
Yeah.
tastes like. This acquiring of
Yeah.
the taste is all because of the social normalizing.
Mm.
Yeah.
And it's
That's it. I mean, I can remember actually talking about being a kid. It's my starting to dip my toe in the water of drink. And I can remember thinking, I actually don't like any of it. It's
no,
horrible.
that's what it
And
tastes
then,
like.
yeah, and then
It hasn't
they,
It
changed.
hasn't
no,
changed.
and then,
Alcohol
yeah,
doesn't change. It's how you perceive what you perceive the
that's
taste to
it.
be.
I
And
use
then
this
they
quite a lot. Sorry, go on.
actually, well, they introduced, you remember hooch, lemon
Yeah,
Yeah.
flavored hooch. And I can
yeah, yeah.
remember being delighted as a kid because I thought, yay, I can actually drink that. It's actually quite nice. And
Mm,
then I progressed onto cider to be a little bit more, more professional in my
mm.
drinking. But yeah, I can remember really kind of scrabbling around thinking, oh, I don't really know what my drink is. I don't really like it. So it's quite
It's interesting
interesting, isn't
how
it?
all of those drinks that came out in the 90s, your hooches, your Bacardi
Mm,
breezes, Anna Donaghy spoke about this on the podcast last
Last week.
week when
mm,
she used to work in advertising for the
yeah.
the big brands. And you actually mentioned it earlier about being on the train. I bet you weren't sat there with a full bottle of wine. Well, obviously you weren't, but nowadays you get these little train buddies that are in pink cans or like one glass. All this kind of making it convenient for you to drink, finding new opportunities to drink, and all of that stuff that came in the 90s, like hooch, just ushered in this whole new
Mm,
way of getting people to drink that
mm,
wasn't
mm,
there in the
Mm.
80s. You
mm,
have to just kind of follow the money, as they say.
mm, yeah. And all the pretty packaging, you
Don't
know.
pink my drink. There's a whole campaign around that, isn't there? Don't pink my drink.
Yeah. So yeah, to suck us all into it.
It
It's
worked.
yeah, it did. But you realize it's actually a con. You just have to be brave enough to kind of follow through with it. And every time you go out without alcohol, and not every night you're gonna have a great night. Some nights you're gonna have a shit night.
Mm.
But
Um,
that can be the same whether
but
you're drinking or not. But you
exactly, and
blame
that's
it
what I
on
was
the
gonna
booze.
say. We do. You attribute too much to alcohol.
Mm.
It's
But it's
like,
possible to just have a shit night out, right?
yeah, exactly. And I've actually surprised myself in this last year on some nights out where I've kind of been a little bit anxious before, and then I've actually had an amazing night. And every time you do that, it's kind of a notch on your, scoreboard of, I can do this. This is good.
Mm.
So, and then occasionally you might get the odd comment of, oh, don't be boring, have a drink. But to be fair, that hasn't happened much, but I just think, what's boring about that, really? You
Mm.
basically, booze is not the fun. You're the fun.
Yeah,
It's
definitely.
your friends that are fun. It's where you are. It's who you're with. It's how you feel. You know, we just place far too much emphasis on booze, I think.
Definitely. When you
Mm.
think about it, one of the main reasons that people give for drinking is the social aspect, right? It helps me socialize.
Yeah,
But if I say the
yeah,
words to you, antisocial behavior, what do you immediately think of?
Yeah.
yeah. Someone who's
Drunk
drunk. Yeah,
people,
yeah,
right? So which one is
yeah,
it? And if and if by definition, you're somebody who doesn't have an off switch, then you might be saying, well, yeah, it's sociable to have a cup, two or three drinks, just a cup, not to get
yeah,
drunk, but just have a few. But most
yeah.
people don't have an off switch,
No,
so you're automatically getting into the realms of antisocial behavior. So which
Mm.
yeah,
it's another lie that we tell
yeah,
ourselves.
Mm. Mm.
yeah.
Mm.
Absolutely right. I mean, when I started this whole sobriety thing, I said to we talked, didn't we, about how it's overwhelming to say forever and all of that at the start. And I have moved the goalpost with this incrementally. Initially it was 30 days, and I said, oh, let's just go another month. Then I was doing the Three Peaks challenge, and I said, oh, no, no, let's do to the Three Peaks challenge, and then you're totally fresh for that. And then I was like, oh, well, you may as well just do another 3 months now, So I just moved it like that. And you know, at the start, I kind of said to myself, don't change your social life, just remove booze. That's all you need to do,
Mm.
because again, that felt overwhelming. I didn't want to feel like I wasn't socializing like I was before. But actually, you realize as time goes on that there is an inevitability with that things will change. And an example of that is I just don't want to stay out stupidly late anymore. I value my sleep now too much.
Yeah, I think once you've
I,
experienced how different it can be, your sleep, you're
yeah,
a bit like, wow, I'm not going back to
yeah,
that again. Because you just don't
Yeah.
know, do you? Until you've taken a
no,
long break, you just got no idea how different sleep
I
is.
know, yeah, and then just how refreshed you feel and just how much more
Totally.
energy. So it's kind of things like that, that inevitably happen. But also you find as well that maybe your social battery doesn't last quite as long. Um, because when you're drinking, you don't care as much, do you, about, I don't know, the conversation that you're having because you're drunk at that point. But when you're not drinking, you're fully connected and fully present.
Yeah,
So
that's spot
that
on.
can be tiring sometimes, especially if it's you're at a party and there's lots of people that you're getting around to talk to. So you do find, well, I've certainly found that. But again, I've surprised myself as well at other things. I've been dancing around friends' kitchens till 2 a.m., so it just does depend. But I think on the whole, social battery probably doesn't last quite as long.
But it
You're
doesn't matter.
probably borrowing that social battery from tomorrow, right? When you're drinking, because
Yeah,
you're out, you're like, yeah,
yeah,
you're loving it. It's great. It's, oh, look at it. It's
yeah,
3 a.m. Great. But
yeah,
where's that
yeah,
social battery at 3 p.m. the following day?
yeah,
It's
exactly.
that's where that has been borrowed from. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So that's definitely changed. But and when we were talking about identity grief and all of that, I've kind of gone through phases of thinking, oh God, well, if you were drinking, you'd have been out till like you just stayed out to that at that party till like half 1, 2 o'clock. So you know, and not are you boring now, but you have those kind of conversations with yourself. But as time's gone on and I'm now over a year into it, I actually think, no, this is fine. I'm good with this. What is happening after 1 a.m.? You
Yeah,
know,
exactly.
what am I missing?
You said it yourself there. The first sort of 2 or 3 hours of a social event, a lot different to the second 2 or 3 hours, because once people have had a couple of glasses of wine or a few beers, things, and you see this when you're outside of the jar looking in, you can see people. Yeah, at the beginning, everyone's connecting. It's a two-way conversation. There's human connection, but then after a certain point, it's just one-way traffic, and it's just you're just shouting. You're not listening to the other person, and it just turns it. And at that point, I kind of ask certain people I work with. I say, "Well, what actually are you losing after that sort of second,
Mm,
third hour? Because there's no kind of human connection, and what you're trading for that is feeling fantastic the next day." And we're all
mm,
people now who are up early and out in the sun, and walking the dogs in the forest, whatever it is you choose to do, and that's a really beautiful time. And you're kind of trading that for just this period of time, 11, 12, 1 o'clock in the morning,
mm.
whatever it may be, where you're just a mess and really not. I
Yeah,
don't know where I'm
I
going with this, but you
that's
understand what I mean, right?
that's absolutely. And I love mornings now. I just absolutely love it. Take my dog on a long walk, watch the sun coming up. You
Mm.
know,
It's great.
you just can't beat that. But
There's
I
something
mean,
special about the mornings, isn't there?
yeah, and feeling fresh. You
Mm.
know, um, it is such a kind of wellness hack not drinking.
Yeah.
For anyone who's into like fitness and into wellness, it's the best thing you can do for
Mm.
your life. You know.
I speak to so many people as well. I'm sure Steve does. Where people will be generally pretty healthy and they'll go to the gym a lot. They'll do regular exercise. They'll eat pretty well, but then there's this. They're still drinking, and it's kind of
Mm,
causing it's this thing that
God, yeah.
sticks out like a sore thumb that doesn't
Yeah.
kind of fit with the rest of, their values. And so many people, toil away at the gym and do exercise, but are still drinking. And it's like you want to gain half of the benefit by drinking. Putting in
Mm.
all of that effort at the gym, and you're getting shit results because your
mm,
performance is low. Your cardiovascular system's affected. Muscle growth is reduced. All of these
mm,
things, and you cannot net out drinking. You can't go out on a Saturday night and then go for a run the next day and think that's all right. I've kind of netted it off. I paid it back. It doesn't work that way.
mm.
It just doesn't.
No,
Well, you can go
no.
out and think that, but it's not true.
It's not
That's
doing
the
any good.
problem.
Well,
And
you're
that's
putting.
Well,
exactly what I
yeah,
Yeah.
thought for
yeah,
10 years, I think. 10 years I thought that. I'll just sweat it out.
Yeah,
I'll
but you're
just
doing
yeah,
go
more
out.
damage because
You're
your
doing
body's
worse.
recovering from the alcohol,
yeah,
and then
Exactly
you're
that.
putting more stress on your body. You're
Exactly.
doing more damage. You might as well
Yeah.
sit at home and do nothing
Yeah.
yeah,
than go to the gym after
Yeah.
if you've got a
yeah.
hangover.
But
Mm.
it's also longer term health, isn't it?
Mm.
For
It's
sure.
massive. Now I've got to over 50. I definitely, not to be morbid, but I am more conscious of my own mortality, and I want to have good years left.
Yeah,
I want to maximize my kind of time left. It just sounds really morbid, but
No, it's
it's
fair.
true.
well,
I want to be running around with my grandkids. I don't want to be in and out of hospital appointments. And that's not to say that you can't get ill, if you stop drinking. Obviously, you could still get ill.
you're
But
massively stacking it in your favor.
yeah,
You're massively
yeah.
because 80% of people die of the main four things.
Mm,
Cardiovascular disease, cancer, um, metabolic dysfunction like obesity, or dementia and Alzheimer's and things like that. That's 80%. And then if you add in another 10% of people who just have accidents, so most people die of one of those four things, and they are all significantly contributed to by alcohol. But
mm,
there's one thing you've completely reminded me. I was listening to a podcast this week, to Stephen Bartlett, Diary CEO, and he had this Harvard professor on there who's being like doing like a ton of work on on medical research. And this guy basically has just managed to cure a person who is completely blind and make them see again. And this is considered to be quite a significant breakthrough in terms of medical science. And he was saying that it is perfectly feasible that within the next kind of 10 to 20 years, that people could be living well over 100, like 100, 120. And I know when you sort of talk about that now, that sounds absolutely like, well, it's ridiculous, mate. What are you talking about? But if you go back 100 years, our life expectancy was half what it is now.
Mm.
At the end of before antibiotics and things like that, we were living to 40. Now we live to 80. So
Mm.
the point is, this is what a guy called Brian Johnson talks a lot about this as well. He says, don't die now, because we're at a point in history with like AI and things where medical research is just going to explode in the next kind of 10 years. So there is a very good possibility you could live well past 100. All of us could live past 100. So now is not the time to be fucking your health up, because do you know what I mean? You don't want to get 10, 20 years down the track and be already ruined. And then everybody else, and other people around you all of a sudden have got like living to 120. I know it sounds ridiculous, but if you put it in the context of the last 100 years in general,
It's so true.
it's so true. So if I don't live to 100, I'm going to be pretty pissed off. Honestly, I want to get past 100.
And you managed to say all of that without saying Steve nearly is.
Yeah. And obviously some of us are older
Waiting
than
for
others.
I was like that. Those
Yeah.
watching on video, I was on 10 to
But it's
waiting for you
true,
to say it.
like Brian Johnson says, don't die now. Just don't.
Yeah.
Now's not the time in history to die.
Yeah.
Just
Because
for
you
clarity, that's not Brian Johnson of AC/DC, right?
No. I think he's great, Brian Johnson. There's a documentary on Netflix about him. He's the guy basically who's
Good stuff.
he's reversing his aging effectively.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
so that's some motivation. Get to 120. You're not even half. That would mean you're not even halfway through your life, Lise. And
I
Steve,
know.
you're only three-quarters through yours.
all those alcohol-free celebrations, those soberversaries, those podcast episodes where we have you back. We've probably got 70 or 80 more of those to come.
Oh my God, can you imagine?
What was also quite timely as well that I noticed, and I'm not necessarily into this, but in terms of like the dramatic change that I feel that I've actually gone through this last year, because I do really feel that I've developed as a person as well, was that it was the year of the snake, isn't it? The Chinese astrology. So that's like the shedding process. So I feel that was very timely for me, because I do think that has happened, and I'm now a new person.
Okay.
I mean, when you started talking about astrology, you completely lost me. But
but now we're in the year of the fire horse. So I'm going to gallop
What the
on
hell's
through.
that?
Yeah.
So what does that mean?
What is that?
It means you're going to run with intention now with your new
love that.
shedded body.
Yeah. Brilliant.
Which leads us into that, Lisa. With 1 year down, are you feeling like the year of the fire?
Yeah.
Is that
I actually am. Yeah, it does really sum it up, because I feel a lot more settled in it. I'm kind of more looking into wellness and nutrition and
what comes next?
Fitness goals. I'd like to do the marathon. So
oh God, don't get Steve started on that.
I did it on Saturday.
Oh God, I knew that was coming. I love the way he just did a marathon.
I did it backwards overnight. I did the reverse marathon.
How did it go?
It was great. There was about 2,000 people, I think, meet in Trafalgar Square and then go to the finish line and run back to the start overnight.
No way.
Yeah, so I was in Blackheath at 4 o'clock in the morning before anybody else was there, and then me and my mate got on hired Lime bikes and cycled all the way back to Waterloo to get the train home. So I was in bed by 9 o'clock before anyone else had started.
But you'd done it. What a feeling.
It was a feeling. But yeah. So you don't get all the sleep back, because I've never felt as sleep deprived as I did on Sunday morning. But yeah, it was good.
This is
I think it's good. I think it's good to it's good to have a goal, isn't it?
It is. So you're going to do the marathon. I'm going to hold you for that.
Hopefully. Yeah. And I've started playing golf and doing other bits and pieces like that. So yeah, other interests is good to have, because obviously you've got a lot more time. Feeling really positive. Looking forward to getting into my second year and feeling a bit more settled with it.
We're super looking forward to hearing exactly where that goes as well, and everything that comes with it. Because I think your second year, your third year, they just to me, looking back now, they feel like chapters in a book. They genuinely do. I feel like genuinely the second year felt different to the first year. But it's just more growth and more what's possible now, and it just really becomes really exciting.
that's it. The first year is a year of just that, isn't it? It's a year of firsts, you know,
Mm.
first birthday, first Christmas, first holidays, all of that kind of thing. And once you get those under your belt and you realize you're still alive, you haven't spontaneously combusted, you know,
Sky didn't fall in.
yeah, and that, you actually had a good time, it just opens the door on what's possible in going into the
Absolutely.
second year. So yeah,
Absolutely.
exciting.
Absolutely.
And
Fantastic.
thank you to you both for helping me with it all.
It
Well,
is
thanks.
genuinely our pleasure. And I know I speak for James as well. I so look forward to our community calls each week. I really do,
Yeah.
because they're such just a pleasure to be involved in. And the wonderful thing is we get to see everybody. Don't take this the wrong way. Not every day, week to week, or maybe
Yeah.
a couple of
Yeah.
weeks, and we just see that change and we see that growth in people, and it's just the
Yeah.
most rewarding thing ever. It's always a pleasure to have you along.
Well, if you want
Thanks.
to meet all of us, me, Steve, Lise, we'll be on the alcohol-free community calls every Monday at midday. It's completely free. Anyone is welcome to come and join. You don't even have to say anything. You can just sit and listen to us talk shit for an hour. But yeah, so if you're interested in joining the alcohol-free revolution community, you just need to drop us an email to at info@thealcoholfreerevolution.co.uk and just put in the headline community, and we'll put you on the list for that, and you'll get an invite. A Zoom link will come through to you on an email, and yeah, and you just jump in and away you go. Like I say, it's
Don't
completely
even
free.
have to put your camera on if you don't want
No,
to.
you don't even have to put your camera on.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that I got that address right, didn't I, Steve?
did.
info@alcoholfreerevolution.co.uk. DM us the word community.
Any word doesn't matter.
In fact, say anything. Just say whatever you want. Just say, I hate the podcast. You guys are a bunch of idiots, but I want to join your community.
You
Doesn't
still
matter.
get a Zoom link.
Yeah. By the way, you won't get bombarded by junk emails. We haven't got any kind of automated emails like that. It's literally so we can send you the Zoom link. That's all it is. So yeah. Well, Lise, I mean, it's been amazing to have you on, and I think you're actually the first listener that we've had on. I think
It is.
and yeah, and obviously you're a founder member of the
I'm
community,
honoured.
and it's your 1 year anniversary, and that's amazing. And many congratulations, and you're an
Thank you.
inspiration.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank
Thanks
you
for having me
so
on.
much for coming on. It's been such a pleasure to record with you. I would say speak with you, but we speak
stuff.
every week. So
We do.
look forward to seeing you on Monday.
Yep.
Thanks,
See you on Monday.
both.
Take
Take
care.
care. See you
Bye.
later, guys.
Bye.